What is up, movers and shakers? Welcome back to Marni On The Move. I'm your host, Marni Salup. Today, I'm joined by Lidia Fluhme, co-founder of Grand Fondo New York, aka GFNY. Lydia, it is so awesome to have you here on the podcast today.
Thanks so much, Marni. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
I've been like watching your events here in New York for years, and I've always wanted to do the GFNY, but I'm always doing the New York City Brooklyn half, and it's the day before. And I always say like, oh, I'm gonna make it part of my triathlon training because I do 70.3. But I haven't done it yet. And I'm so excited to meet you and hear that this year and last year you have a pro men's field, but we need a pro women's field.
Absolutely, let's work on that. And I mean, we do have people who do the attempt to double Brooklyn half and GFNY.
I know. For
years, I think since 2012, we've been on back-to-back days. Mm-hmm. So I know it's hard.
Well, I think the part that's like hard, actually it's not, it's just in your head. It's not hard. Like it's actually like really part of the training.
But it's like you have to pick up your race packet for the Brooklyn half. You have to pick up your race packet for GFNY. You have to wake up early for both races.
Yeah,
you gotta,
that's hard.
Get through the race course, recover, and how hard are you pushing on the Brooklyn half to still be fresh enough to do 85 miles on the bike the next day. So
True.
It's definitely like a double that's like
challenging.
And you can brag about.
So talk to me about GFNY, because you have a global cycling race and event company when did you start? What was your first race?
We started in 2010 and the first race was in 2011 in New York, and it was really founded on us not having a cycling marathon in New York. I was a triathlete at the time. I was doing New York City swims. I was doing the Roadrunners races, and I was doing triathlons, and I like to do the single sports to improve in the respective ones. Being mediocre in 3 makes you a great triathlete. And I was always looking for like that individual training as well. I showed up to 2 Central Park races, and the first time I was the only woman, and there was no race at all. And the next time, a month later, I showed up, it was me and another woman. They put us in the Cat 5 field with the men, which then we could take part but not race in it. And I was just really disappointed. I showed up, you have the race morning jitters, and you want to like have a bike race, like you're expecting this, and it just like gets deflated, like you don't even have a race to do. So I never did a bike race, and I met my husband actually when we were running in Central Park Track Club, and we started talking about his experience cycling in Europe, because he's German and he was racing on an elite team in Italy, and he was talking about Grand Fondos that he was racing for like the last 20 years, and we were like, I never heard of it. He was describing it to me. We went to Italy a couple of months later in May and 2010, and I did that, and by that time I'd done like 17 Ironmans, and that Grand Fondo was the hardest thing I've ever done. I was like going up steep climbs and descents, and it was like pushed in a group. I've pushed my limits over the top, and 2 weeks later we get back to New York, and I'm like, I quit my job. We need this in New York. Like it really doesn't exist. And it was kind of like from there I started visiting the towns on the course. What would the course look like? What can we get authorized? So I think that was like the biggest learning curve in all of this, is like going through the process of creating something that's never been done before.
Right.
And on like a humongous scale, because it's also a huge course that goes through 2 states, 2 counties. The Friday before our wedding, we got the call from Port Authority that they were authorizing us to close the lower level. So that was like a beautiful wedding gift for us.
That's amazing.
That it's like official. Like I think 10 days later, we opened registration for the first GFNY in 2011.
That's so amazing. And did you, when you first started, like how hard was it to work with the city and the fire departments and police departments and any of the crews that you needed? Because that's something that like a lot of people, I think, goes underappreciated as athletes. As someone who, you know, works in this space, like I know what it takes.
Yeah.
But like it takes a lot to do that, and that's what a lot of the money goes to when people sign up, right?
Yeah, totally.
So talk to me a little bit about that part in the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, originally when we started, we were like, we gotta have a start in New York City. You know, we tried Central Park, we tried even Riverside Drive, where, you know, 70s, 80s, 135, 155, what could that look like? We had a long string of talks and hired even a lobbying firm to like help us through the process to get this New York City start. And it just like never happened. And even through all the years, we've had a variety of conversations with various stakeholders in the city to have a New York City start. But I have to say the start on the lower level of the George Washington Bridge is so cool, because you're standing there.
It's beautiful.
On a major piece of infrastructure that you're looking at the New York City skyline, which actually you couldn't do if you're starting at like Riverside Drive.
Yeah.
You can't see Midtown that way, and then you look north and you see the race course, and it's actually like this really amazing atmosphere that here you have the city, and then like what's to come for the next few hours and your challenge for the day. And I think in general, it's going through 13 towns and 2 states, and we work with 30 different jurisdictions. It's an incredibly complex race. It's probably among the most complex cycling races in the world, and among, I would say, like the top 10 events in the world, just from like the closing down of a major New York City piece of infrastructure, and all the rest of the course, which I understand, like from cycling, you're like, oh, it's just the same, but it's really not, because we're hiring 200 police officers to moderate traffic, and it's a really special experience. We call it do 85 miles with no stoplights, because every intersection there's cops waving the cyclists through and stopping the cars, so you never do have to stop, which is something really special.
Yeah.
And expensive.
Yes.
So the entry fee definitely is reflecting the fact that we have to pay overtime for all the police.
Right. So it's not like, for my New York listeners, it's not like you're just doing the same ride you always do. It's doing the same ride you always do, but at a speed you actually have always wanted to do, but can't because there's cars and there's lights and there aren't a lot of people, so you don't have support. God forbid something goes wrong. Talk to me about the course and where it goes and where it starts. And
starts on the lower level of the GWB. We take Henry Hudson Drive, which is River Road to some people.
Yeah.
Then we head north to Alpine, then the state line, then all the way north. We go to some parts on 9W, some through local town roads. Then we make a left in Stony Point, and then go through like the smaller roads in through Stony Point and southbound. So it's a unique, great little loop, and finishing back almost where we started in Fort Lee.
Okay.
We have many road closures. I would say like 60% of the course is actually fully closed for you guys to race.
That's awesome.
And it's a huge undertaking and expense, and so definitely like.
What about stops? Like, do you have stops, or it's not a ride, it's a race, so there's no stops?
We have 4 aid stations.
Okay.
But as in life, the time keeps ticking. So if you take 20 minutes, it's added to your race time. And so I think like making it fast is what I prefer to do myself.
Yeah. That's the opportunity. But it's also a great opportunity for new cyclists that want to do a ride at their own pace. Mm-hmm. How long do people have on the course?
We close the course at 3 p.m., so there's definitely 8 hours.
Okay, so you do kind of have to ride fast.
For 85 miles,
yeah. Oh, 85 miles. Okay, yeah.
I think it's doable. I think
the
people who don't finish are the people who take too long at aid stations.
Okay, I agree.
Really like making it camping and standing and chatting and
That's all cyclists.
that's what gets the people at the end.
Yeah.
Just keep moving.
You got to keep moving. Bring your own food. BYOF.
We have it. Just don't stop forever.
Yeah, totally. I love that. But it's also like the vibe is so cool. Like you really feel like you're a professional athlete for the day because you have like that SAG support and
we have full road support.
Yeah.
Every athlete gets a wristband with a hotline number, so we're able to get phone calls, address people. We have pro mechanical service, rolling, stationary at all the aid stations. We're working with local bike shops to be at the aid stations and have like amazing rolling support. We have EMSs from every town that are on site. We have the aid stations. We have the SAG vans. So if you're not feeling it, you need to get picked up, we'll pick you up.
That's amazing. Like what % of this race are men versus women?
I think
it's okay.
Like 85% are men.
And 15% are women.
Yes, and I think that reflects cycling in general. I mean, I think some countries there's more women cycling in general, like our Costa Ricans, bless those ladies, they're young. There's so many of them who are cycling. I wish there were more women who took after the Costa Rican young ladies who were racing because they're loving it. And when I say racing, I mean also just doing it because you can do your best even though you're not the fastest, but giving it a shot and loving the spirit.
Yeah, I think we need to get more women. Have you, I don't know, I'm sure you do a ton of outreach, but how do you get more women into this sport? I think, between Zwift and all the cycling companies and bikes and all of those, everyone is really trying to encourage women, like Tour de France Femme, avec Zwift, all of those things are trying to get women into sports and cycling. So what kind of stuff can we as listeners and you as a race director and owner do to get more women out there?
I mean, we provide the course safety for everybody. And I think that's a huge aspect to feeling good about being on the road.
Right.
We offer group rides. So you don't have to ride alone. You can ride every Sunday for free with us to train for the race. So I think like supporting just riding together. We have also training plans as well.
Yeah.
The group rides are more like doing the distance together every Sunday.
That's nice.
Yeah, and I mean I think it's great because even when it's colder, it gets you out the door. In the morning, you don't really feel like it, but your group is waiting, so you want to do it. And I think it's maybe not like targeted for women, but it's available to make it easier also for women to do it. I mean, I've personally tried like group rides and I called them Women's Wednesdays, and I didn't really get like a particularly big turnout. They were like 6 a.m. loops in the park together with other GFNY riders who were women. And that was like my attempt at it.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel like that really like recruited enough women. I think it comes down to like women feeling comfortable with a mechanical equipment, which a bike is.
Right.
And then like riding on the road, which I think also takes like, I think conviction to do.
Yeah.
And I think every person has their own like preference and how they do it. Like I love riding my bike.
Yeah, me too.
I love what I see when I ride. I see so much more when I ride than when I run.
Yeah.
Because you're running.
You can get further.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So you just get to see more, and
yeah.
I love it. And I think like cycling, it's this perfect speed that is not as slow as running. So it's like you're looking at this thing and progressing slowly, but you're actually moving faster and can see more. So it's like captures more like the spirit. And I don't know actually.
I have some thoughts. So GFNY is not just in New York, but this is where you started. So talk to me about how many races you have and where.
We have 30 races around the world this year, and I think that's a number that will keep growing in the future. Every year after New York, for the first few years, people were like, this is awesome. can we do this again next weekend? And we were like, well, here's the Gran Fondo calendar in Italy, just show up to any of them and we just do that. And people were like, I don't speak Italian, that sounds complicated. And then at the same time, we started getting calls from other people who were like, I love what you do in New York, can I do this where I live? And then we're like, well, there's NYU in Shanghai and NYU in Florence, so why don't we do a GFNY and then put that as the brand and then add a location to it. And having been an Ironman athlete, I've myself, from when I was racing, traveled the world with Ironman and loved that I can see the world and then have this like familiar experience, know the safety, what's on offer, meet people that I knew at various races around the world. And we were like, we need to combine actually GFNY, this experience, and offer it at other locations. So we set up the consistent set of rules. What would the series look like? What the brand would look like? How do we communicate? And I mean, like a variety of steps that created the foundation for a series. And we also have our own technology system. So we also not only have the experience at the race that is consistent, but now also the pre-race and the post-race with our technology as well.
Wow, that's amazing. So what countries are you in?
We have 7 races in France. Then we have Peru, Uruguay, Chile, Dominican Republic, Indonesia in Bali, we just had the edition. Italy, the US, we have 5 races, 6 races. We have Germany and Mexico, of course.
That's awesome. So, and they're all Gran Fondo style. So
the same set of rules, the same experience. There's a long distance, which is competitive. There's a medium distance that is recreational. We have global rankings as well. So based on how you finish, you get points at the end of the year. You get ranked throughout the year, but at the end you can get to see how you stack up against others on a global level.
So it's a lot like Ironman in the sense that if people are trying to like wrap their head around this and don't get it, but it's a lot like Ironman where like you're a recreational age group athlete and you're competing with everyday other recreational athletes for different events.
Exactly.
And at your top of your age group, you get to go to like the world championship.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I did Ironman for 10 years.
Yeah.
And 20 Ironmans. I don't even know, 100 half Ironmans.
Yeah.
And it's very much following that setup. And I think we're being very transparent in that because my husband was an Ironman athlete. We both raced in Kona. And we really loved this experience, and we just put it in cycling.
That's awesome. And so you started out as a triathlete, cyclist, second. What were you doing for work in New York before you launched this company?
I worked on Wall Street.
Okay.
At Merrill Lynch and Deutsche Bank and Bank of Tokyo. And I mean, I liked the job, but it was never like meaningful. I always felt like I'm working on deals or reading like presentations, and it was, making it kind of like just sitting at the computer and getting the work done.
Yeah.
But I was getting up early to do my run and leaving work after work and doing some other training. And when this idea from my husband was there, it was really very fulfilling. And I think like it's so hard to organize races in general because it's, so, as you know, very much like time structure, and there's a deadline and there's a gun to your head because there's a deadline and things need to be done within this deadline.
Yeah.
And it's also annoying because like things only fall into place at the last minute, but you only have 24 hours, so you end up not sleeping.
So it's like a triathlon. Because you're balancing a lot of stuff.
Yes, exactly.
Till the very last minute, and then it's go time.
Exactly, yeah. And it's a really much a job of passion to do something, because it's definitely not something that's easy to do.
And now do you travel to all the locations for the races with your husband, and you have kids as well, right?
We have 3 kids, 3 boys. We don't travel to all of them, but many of them.
Yeah.
Where was the last one? We were in the Bahamas for that race, and then from the Bahamas flew via Miami to Cozumel. So those were our last 2 that we attended as a family.
Do you cycle? Do you like ride the course, like also before you pick it? Like you go out and...
Before we pick a course, we look at, when we pick a course, we have to like study the legal ways to use the road to make it possible to hold a race. So it's more complicated than like liking scenery, because of the legal parameters we have to work with to make a race course. But definitely, like, for example, here in New York, my husband, he goes out on the course and like documents every pothole, submits it to all the DPW. So like our joke is like we help with the road quality every single year, because we submit all the potholes and then they get filled for race day. So at least like the roads are in always a better condition when it comes to May, because all of the filling gets done.
And so where do you, I know you mentioned like in Costa Rica that you have the most women come out to ride. Are you targeting both like the local community, and then it's like a racecation destination for people that are in the sort of cycle of GFNY?
Yeah. We have, I think the interesting part is we're a global series, so that our athletes come from the local destination, obviously, because that's like the local people, it's easy to get to. But then because we're an international series, and once people do a race, they have this great experience, and then they're like, where else can I go? And then the world kind of like opens for them and for us, I guess, because they're looking at where else they can go. So
to do these epic rides.
Exactly. So it's definitely also tourism. So on our website, we realize that our athletes travel, so we help them. Here's official hotels. Here's the attractions you'd like to do at the destination. And I think when we started, we didn't really like focus on the hotel. We were like, just pick a hotel. But people were like, I'm traveling here, I want to be part of it. So we've had to do like a lot of learning, I guess, in the whole process. People want to stay together, so we do offer official hotels. And people are like, what should I do? But there's some activities that really don't fit for like an active person. So we're like, from a GFNY perspective, we know you're getting out early to do your training. You've got like, you're more like health conscious. You want to have something more active than just like sitting there, you know, looking at something. So we're also like working with a destination, be like, okay, let's figure out which are the activities for our people, and that's what we list on our website.
That's a lot. That's really great.
We focus a lot on the athlete experience.
Do you have a travel company that is like sponsoring all your races? That there should be, because they should be. That's huge for like a travel company like the Nirvana travel company, or you know, there's so many, right? The ones that do like marathon destinations and stuff like that would be. I'm always working.
Yeah.
This is amazing though. What % of your athletes are local versus destination, and does it vary between?
It varies.
Okay.
It varies. In our races, for example, in Uruguay, a country of 3 million people, we have most people come as tourists, either from Brazil or Argentina or from somewhere else, because Uruguay is such a small country. Also, our race in New York is incredibly international. I think like the coolest thing about our New York race is how international it is. We have people from 97 countries travel to do this race, so it's really like this melting pot. As you know already, New York is that.
Yeah.
And then you're actually like bringing cyclists, passionate cyclists from around the world to do this race. And that's like you get to have your jersey, and you're all taking part in the race and having this experience like together. And it's really like this really beautiful spirit of people who are like living the same passion and accomplishing their goal. Because I think, you know, you have so many different paths like that people come from, why they do it, how they prepared for it, where they came from, what do they want to achieve on the race course, you know, like what does that finish line mean to someone? It's a different answer for every single person.
Right.
There's some people who have, for example, a man who had his father passed away, so he was using his training as like a way to overcome the emotional pain from that.
Yeah.
You know, there's people who do it for health. Some, you know, like to do it for the adventure. Some are doing like the 3-timer medal with us, so they're like, that's definitely a must do. And what are the other 2 that I'm doing to get my 3-timer medal? So there's definitely so many.
And there's a shorter ride this in New York, or what's the? No, it's 85. You gotta commit to it.
Special, exactly. New York is special.
It's not that many miles, honestly.
85.
It's a nice day, 85.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's
a beautiful day.
I mean, if you're running a marathon, you can ride 85 miles.
Yeah.
It's this way because we also have a professional race at the front of the peloton.
And this is your second year doing that.
Second year doing this. Before this, we had a medium and a long, but the problem, if we cut the medium somewhere, the professionals can't, they need the full road closed.
Yes.
So they can't be like passing other cyclists. It's too dangerous to do that. So we looked at various ways to still offer a medium. It's just like too difficult. We do offer bus pickup. So if there's an athlete who just cannot continue, for example, at a station 3 or 4, we have buses. We'll take them back to the finish line. So there's still a way to make it a medium if someone can't finish the whole 85. But it's the professionals who start 10 minutes in advance, and then after that, the thousands of open race riders are taking part. And also the professionals, we tell them like, you gotta go, because whoever doesn't go, they will get caught by the open race. And we had about half the field from the pros finish, and the other half were actually in the open race, so they did not officially finish the pro race.
Oh, really? That's interesting. So they were pros, but it was challenging for them.
Exactly.
That's so, and the regular athletes are pretty strong, especially the ones that live here and do this all the time.
Yeah, the New York races really has like a stacked field.
Yeah.
There's former professional cyclists who take part. There is like really strong riders. There's some Olympians. So this is not a race to take lightly.
Yes. And my other question is, okay, so you have a pro men's race. This is your second year. How can we get a pro women's race here?
Oh, just money.
Money. It's $100,000, right? I saw your press release.
Yeah.
That's how much you need to keep the roads open?
Yes, extra. And it would be the women's race leaving first, then the men, and then the open race. So it's really like we took into account the 45 minutes earlier that the women would have to start, and paying the police along the course that extra time, having the vehicles, the motorbikes, the officials that are also following that peloton, that set of radios and all the logistics around that. So this is a cost of $100,000 that we're not able to secure sponsorship for. We've tried a second year.
Did you hear that, guys?
Let's make it happen. 2026. Let's bring a professional women's race to New York.
Now, did you know Kristen Faulkner when she was in New York cycling?
No.
You didn't? Because you guys are like in the same kind of arenas, right? Like 10 years ago, you were here cycling. I feel like that's when she started cycling and was in finance also, and then left. And but I bet you she would come back to New York to do that ride as a pro.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Exactly. There's not so many women's pro races in the U.S., so I think like either teams would want to come, because I'm assuming that they mostly race in Europe, so they would have to especially come for that. But I think the appeal is New York, and
New York
world
is where it's
stage, you know, is here. So the attention of the world, and this is your chance to showcase our sport around the world. So I think they should.
Yeah,
definitely.
I'm all about the women's race, and that would be just so cool. And we have all the great media in New York. They don't have to travel to France. They can just be here, like the New York Times and NBC and ABC. And so, I don't know, guys, get it together. Women's pro cycling in New York. How many pro teams do you have on the men's front thus far coming to New York?
We are allowed to have 180
teams or athletes?
Athletes.
Okay.
6 athletes per team. But I think we're probably going to end up with maybe around 150.
Okay. Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, and they come from really all over. It's a very international field.
Where can people, what's the best place for people to spectate along the course if they want to watch?
Well, Nyack on our race day afterwards is having a street fair. So if you want to combine watching in Nyack and then enjoying that street fair. Otherwise, there is in West Nyack, we have an aid station that is also has enough space for parking and being there. But I think anywhere that you can use the PIP.
Yeah.
If you're driving, and then if you're a New Yorker, go to Fort Lee and watch the finish line, because that's really cool.
And if you're a New Yorker, you have this really awesome festival where you can shop.
Eat a burger.
If you're a cyclist and you're not doing GFNY, you can go buy gear, which is like the other favorite thing of cyclists that aren't racing is shopping, getting donuts, and
Who isn't?
Yeah. I love that, though. I think I went like a few years ago, geek out on all the gear. Yeah.
Made in Italy. It's really good stuff.
Yeah. So, and what's the race? And you live in Italy, so in Tuscany, which is like beautiful. I've never been, but
great for cycling.
Yeah. So, where do you ride now? Are you still cycling and doing triathlon every day? You ride.
I don't do triathlon. When I was pregnant, my pelvis split, so I can no longer run really.
Okay.
But that's why cycling has been amazing, because I can do sport pain-free, and
that's great.
That's my sport.
Now, what kind of bike do you have?
Or
what kind of bikes do you have? Let me rephrase that.
I ride my BMC road bike. I occasionally do like mountain bike if I go with my kids, but I'm really road cycling, because don't need more than that.
And are you on like digital shifters now? You're like totally modernized, or are you still like old school?
I'm modernized in that there is electronic shifting, but I don't have a computer. I haven't had one since I was a triathlete, so it's
I had to ask. I know that's like ride by feel.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's I think like compared to running in triathlon, where it's really about the distance and this time versus distance, cycling is like a bit more adaptive in that like the long distance can be anywhere from 70 miles to 90 miles, and all of that qualifies as a long distance. Also, you have variety of either climbing or flat, so you have like different topography, and you fit that in as a long distance. So it's, I think, like not as measured. And then also you're cycling in a group, and then if you're drafting, you're having the benefit of the draft. So I think it's like for me less by the numbers and more about the experience.
That's amazing. And where do you what are the biggest parallels from being an entrepreneur and starting a business that you get from whether it's cycling or triathlon? What are is there a parallel for you that business lesson maybe
business lesson
that you take from sport?
Well, I think
or life.
The good part was being an athlete for a decade before doing GFNY, so having and racing all over the world. And I mean I was racing ITU, I did run races around the world as well, and So I've kept like a log of all the races and countries I've been to, that sport took me to, and having this like in-depth like knowledge, personal knowledge of what I liked, what worked well, what was actually missing from an organization where I wish they'd done this or that. And you know, I was young, so and really like taking it from a place of not like not looking at it like an organizer, but just like as a participant.
Yeah.
But taking all of these experiences and then applying them to GFNY, I think gives us this unique advantage that just like someone who is wants to organize, but is, for example, a running organizer, and then applying it to cycling, but they don't know cycling.
Right.
And all the unique things that you need to do that are special, that is like a key to all of this. And I think in general, when I was at NYU undergrad, I was in a variety of clubs, and the clubs put on events, and I was on like boards, and I think like learning how to run the clubs then gave me like this foundation for how to run a business.
That's so interesting. I love that. This has been really, really great, and really excited to come do the race announcing. I'm so excited to do that and be a part of it, because we all know about my ankle. So shit show.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was really awesome to meet you.
Thank you so much, Marni. Thanks for this opportunity. Really excited to have you in May 18th at the finish line and the start line. Very cool experience being at the start. So I'm glad you are going to be part of that.
This is my race recon. This is my like assessing the situation, because hopefully next year I'll do it.
Exactly. Well, we're going to have a Marni team.
Yes, we're going to have a Marni On The Move team. So if you're a cyclist in New York and you want to be on the team, DM me on Instagram and I'll let you know what it takes to get on. Just kidding. No, seriously, just DM me.
Love it.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you,
so
Lidia.
much.
Thank you.